This is Pet Life Radio. Let's talk pets.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Best Vets for Pets. I'm your show host, Michelle Fern. You know, a lot of you guys out there are new pet parents. You know, you got a pet during the pandemic. Maybe you've had your pet since 2020. Maybe you're a brand new pet parent. And I bet you didn't know how much it's going to cost you, right? But, you know, don't give up on the fur baby. There's a lot of great solutions out there to help with the cost. I have some fascinating information to share with you with my guest today. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Take a bite out of your competition. Advertise your business with an ad in Pet Life Radio podcasts and radio shows. There is no other pet-related media that is as large and reaches more pet parents and pet lovers than Pet Life Radio. With over 7 million monthly listeners, Pet Life Radio podcasts are available on all major podcast platforms, and our live radio stream goes out to over 250 million subscribers on iHeartRadio, Odyssey, TuneIn, Stitcher, and other streaming apps. For more information on how you can advertise on the #1 pet podcast and radio network, visit PetLifeRadio.com/advertise today.
Let's Talk Pets on PetLifeRadio.com.
Welcome back, everyone. I'd like to welcome Jonathan Wainberg. He is the Senior VP and General Manager of Pet at Synchrony. Welcome, Jonathan.
Hey, Michelle. Thanks for having me. Delighted to be on.
Very excited to have you. So let's just talk about your title for a second so people know what we're going to get into. Synchrony is a credit card bank company, correct?
It's absolutely. It's a bank. It's a consumer finance company that specializes in consumer financing solutions in a range of industries.
That is a very good way to put it. Okay. But what we're going to talk about, we're focusing on pet. And recently, Synchrony did an amazing study that looked at the overall, lifetime of costs. Did you know the cost of a pet is the #1 reason pets are either abandoned or returned to shelters?
Oh, absolutely. And that is, a big reason why we commissioned this study, which we title A Lifetime of Care. And we did that on behalf of, our two businesses that help finance in the pet space, Care Credit and Pets Best Pet Insurance. And, I think in your introduction, you really hit the nail right on the head, if you will, because so many pet owners are first-time pet owners through the pandemic, right? And all the pandemic puppies. And so we want to make sure that pet parents are prepared for the financial commitments that we make when we adopt a pet, right? I'm lucky over here. I'm sitting next to my beautiful fur baby, Maddie. She's a 11-year-old miniature poodle, and she likes that I'm working from home with her now, or I guess she's working with me. Depends who's the boss on the day of the week. But pets do so much for us, and we need to make sure that we're financially prepared for them. And so this was something that we, as a company and as an industry, really needed to educate existing pet parents and prospective ones about.
You know what? Hi, Maddie. I know that there's a lot of the pet industry is growing like crazy, but I read through your survey. I really like all the stats. I just like looking at those numbers and realizing, you mentioned that 90.5 million homes now have a pet. That is, according to the U.S. Census, about 70% of households have a pet. And your survey was focused on dog and cat. That is huge.
Oh, it's massive. And listen, we think pet ownership is great. Everyone on our team has a pet family member. We think it's fantastic. And like you said, 90.5 million homes now have a pet. And you know what? 1 in 5 just acquired one during the pandemic, right? And so a lot of these expenses and a lot of the commitments are new, right? And so we thought this was the perfect time for us to really drill down and see what kind of a lifetime of care is going to cost and make sure that everyone's prepared. It's interesting, as you mentioned, people are spending like crazy. In 2020 alone, over, $103 billion was spent. And I'm pretty sure that in 2021, we're going to see that number, once the stats come out, go up quite a bit. And so we're spending a lot of money on our pets. The humanization of pets is a real thing. And it's great to see that they are getting the love and care as a full family member. But with that comes, some of the financial commitments, perhaps, that are larger than traditionally they have been, right? So one stat which jumps out as we talk about 90.5 million US homes now include a pet. Well, in the survey that we did, 30 million of those households said that they worry that they'll face a unexpected pet expense that will cause them financial stress. And so that's 1 in 3 of those households. And so it's very important that we get this message out, not to scare people from bringing in an additional family member, but really just to make sure that we're prepared and we have all the financial resources and tools to make sure that people are prepared and responsible at the same time.
I think this is very thoughtful, actually, because too many people think, oh, I want a little puppy or a little kitten or something. And, they're fun, they're cozy, whatever. And then they become dogs and, maybe they're not I think they're still cute and lovable, but, not everybody. And then they become older and things happen. I've had 2 of my fur babes. One is passed on and one is still with me that had unexpected health situations out of the blue that were thousands of dollars. And most people are not financially prepared. I think it's very important for people to realize there's more than just food and treats and toys that go into taking care of your fur babe. What are the costs that you would think for, I know dogs and cats vary a little, but what are the costs, like maybe like lifetime costs of for a dog and a cat?
Yeah, so our study showed that over the course of a lifetime, pet owners can spend as much as $55,000 on expenses with, when you factor in everything, those costs range, right? But it depends on the cat, it depends on the breed, depends on also geographically where you live, right? Care costs different amounts in different parts of the country. But over the course of the first year, pet owners could expect to spend upwards of $2,800, right? A little bit more for dogs than for cats, as you mentioned. But these expenses aren't limited to just spaying, neutering, vaccinations, pet supplies. Obviously, setting up your pet at first, there is a cost to it. You bring up a great point also about the end of life, right? There's been a lot of advances in care for dogs and cats, right? And a lot of those advances have come in specialty medicine. Either it was brought over from human health or it was now specially designed and developed for animals. And the outcomes are a lot better, but the cost of that care is a lot more as well. And so that's another thing that's driving those costs up, because most of us, like you said, who have these beautiful family members are going to do everything they can to make sure that they have the best care possible.
Well, before we get into your specifics, I'm going to just share 2 things that happened to me that was a very unexpected, scary, and expensive. And these things can happen to anybody. Zeus, before he passed on in August 2020, but this happened, I think, in 2017 or 18. He had vestibular old dog disease. Have you heard of that?
I haven't. I have not, but I feel like you're going to tell me right now anyway.
I'm going to tell you, but I'm going to make it a short story. It happens mostly at night. It's random and just comes on. And your dog, what it is, it's some kind of a nerve disorder that they get very dizzy. They can't eat. And anyway, it involves a cost to generally the nighttime hospital, which is so pricey, blood work, whatever. Anyway, that was $2,000. And Mr. Dennis, who's a cat, he's still with us. He had crystals in his urine, so he had to get snipped. And that was several thousand. But things happen. And sometimes things happen out of the blue, like your dog just all of a sudden, or a cat can have an injury just come from nowhere. right? I mean, have you ever it's horrible that that happens, but people need to be aware that these things do happen.
Absolutely, Michelle. And I've spent a few nights at the overnight emergency vet as well. So I know exactly what you're talking about. And, I think in that example, that's where the Care credit card tends to come in quite a bit, because it is very good to help people with unexpected expenses. And so, we're accepted in about 85% of the veterinarian practices in the United States.
Wait, let me interrupt you for a second, Jonathan. Sorry. Just in case people don't know, because Care Credit is, I think, a household word, but some people might not know. So explain what Care Credit does, because it's different than a regular credit card.
It is. You're absolutely right. So Care Credit is a credit card that focuses in the health and wellness space. And one of our largest areas that we focus on is in the veterinarian space. And what we offer is specialized financing programs that will help make the cost of care more affordable by offering deferred financing products. So depending on the cost and depending on the vet where you go, you could have deferred interest. So you won't pay interest for 6 months as long as you pay your monthly fee. And it could go as high as, even some products are offered for a 5-year deferred interest product. So it makes it very affordable, because as long as you pay your scheduled payments, there won't be an interest charge, which I think is extremely valuable.
That's really helpful. I've seen it at my vet's office, and I think that is something that is a welcome relief for many, many pet parents. All right, we're going to take a short break and we'll be right back. Hey everyone, Michelle Fern here. Is your dog living with joint discomfort? Well, Antinol is a natural, super potent blend of marine lipid oils that has helped over 2 million pets worldwide. And Antinol is the only joint supplement for pets with 20 published peer-reviewed studies globally. Start your dog's mobility makeover at Antinol.com. And if it's your first time buying Antinol, we have a special starter kit offer to make your first purchase easy. Antinol.com. Free shipping on your first order with a free bonus pack for the first 15 days to give optimal results and a 100% money-back guarantee. Antinol.com. Keep happiness in motion.
Let's talk pets.
Let's talk pets
On Pet Life Radio.
Pet Life Radio.
PetLifeRadio.com.
Welcome back, everybody. We're talking with Jonathan Wainberg, and he's with Synchrony. Let's get into the pet insurance portion of your business. And let me say that from pet insurance, from the first time I heard the word, which was maybe 20 years ago, has changed dramatically. It used to be you paid so much and nothing was accepted or covered or anything like that. And I know it's changed dramatically, especially in the last, maybe from what I've read and heard, 5 years, 7 years. What is Pets Best?
By the way, you are absolutely right. And I was actually, a little bit concerned about this portion of the call, because I am going to have to try to manage saying best bets for pets with Pets Best, right? And so that was a bit of a tongue twister. I think I landed it, but
very good.
Thanks. You're absolutely right, Michelle. Listen, pet insurance has evolved an incredible amount over the years. And what you bring up is something that is not uncommon. It used to be a lot more of a, shall I say, like a defined benefit, where you were limited to what you can expense based on certain categories. And it really has evolved over the years to a direct reimbursement model. And so it's much easier for you to get those claims and coverages paid for. Pets Best was founded in 2005 by Dr. Jack Stevens, who's considered the father of the pet insurance industry, actually, in North America. And Synchrony, we purchased Pets Best in 2019, and it's been a great story. We've grown an incredible amount, and it is a product which is really resonating now in the United States. Traditionally, pet insurance has been a product which had an incredible amount of adoption in Europe. And so in the United Kingdom, about 1 in 4 domesticated animals have pet insurance. In Northern Europe, it could be as high as 75%. Well, in the US, that number is maybe approaching 3% now. But we are seeing an incredible amount of growth. And I think it's happening because of the increases in technology that make it easier to process a claim. So you can take a picture of your expense on our app and send it in. There's a lot of artificial intelligence that approves these claims automatically, and there's direct reimbursement, right back, so that you get those payments done on a much more timely basis. So we're seeing that increase in incredible amounts. Last year, I should say for 2020, we're waiting for the 2021 stats to become final. The industry grew about 28%. So you're seeing more and more people elect to have pet insurance. And I think a lot of it has to do with, macroeconomic trends. Younger people are taking that product a little bit more. I think it's something that is being discussed more openly at veterinarian clinics and at shelters. And so, at Pets Best, we've seen an incredible amount of growth, and we see a lot of usage. We hear that our policyholders are getting a lot of utility out of our policy, which is what we want, because just like in human health, a pet that has a more compliant health regimen and that is taken for its normal trips to the vet and normal vaccinations and everything is going to be a healthier pet in the long run. And that's what we all want. And, I would add that a healthier pet also is obviously a happier pet for all of us, and it benefits everyone. The veterinarians who care so much are really on the front lines of caring for our pets, us who have to manage those financial responsibilities, which is also why we have a wellness plan built into these so that you can get your routine costs covered. And for the pet and the owner, because it gives them the stability of costs and coverage so that they don't have to worry as much.
Well, it sounds great all around, but let's talk about the different factors of Pets Best if we can.
Sure.
So, back in the day when you had pet health insurance, it took forever to get anything approved and only very small things, it was very haphazard about what was approved. And I know now things are facilitated much faster. So let's talk about, there's different programs. Some veterinary practices have wellness programs. They're okay. I don't know that they're the best spend all the time. I like that with Pets Best, they're accepted at, you said, 85% of all veterinary offices across the U.S.
Well, that's a Care Credit Card is actually
Care Credit, okay.
But the Pets Best, because it's a reimbursement model, as long as you go to any vet and send it in, it'll be a covered expense as long as it's covered per the policy. So you have the freedom to choose whichever vet you would like to go to.
Okay, thanks for correcting me on that. So you can go to any vet, and then how does it work? Is the monthly? I'm assuming there's a monthly fee.
Correct.
Tell us how it works.
Yeah, it's not unlike human healthcare in that sense, where you have a deductible and a monthly fee, and once you hit that number, then all your coverages are taken care of. I think it really depends on the type of product you want. The great thing with Pets Best is, it's really dynamic that you can say, okay, I'm willing to pay a higher monthly rate, what that's going to result in a lower deductible, or vice versa. And then there's different levels of coverage. You can, as discussed, you can add a wellness product to it so that your more routine costs are covered, or you can have an accident and illness plan only for certain elements. Listen, I'll tell you right now, sitting right next here to Maddie, I actually had pet insurance. I've been fortunate to have an interesting career in the sense that I've been able to live around the world. So Maddie joined our family 11 years ago, and not long after, we moved to Hong Kong. And so the pet insurance that I had, I could no longer have in Hong Kong because it was just a domestic policy. And then from there, I moved to the UK. And so our family went from Hong Kong for 2 years down to London for 5 years, and then back to the US. Well, at reestablishing, our insurance policy, we found that there was different policies that were better for different situations and based on your age of your pet and your breed. And so what was great about Pets Best is we were able really to tailor that to what our needs were, as opposed to perhaps what a puppy would take.
That's great that you can tell your needs, because also certain breeds have more issues. Dogs that have shorter snouts have respiratory issues. There's certain ailments. Cocker Spaniels generally have ear issues. There's certain breeds, German Shepherds have hip issues. So there's certain breeds that have certain problems that are just breed prone,
Of course. No, you're absolutely right. And it's also, age, right? And so, just like in human health, animal health can be more expensive, as we discussed earlier, the older you get. And so there are different ways that you can structure that so that that it makes sense. In some cases, maybe you're more concerned about an emergency accident as opposed to, the normal maintenance because they had something happen. So, it is important to, kind of think about all those parameters. But the great thing is that there's choice. And that's why, at Synchrony, where we have the credit card and we also have the pet insurance product, it really works well together or independently. And it's really about choice and preference based on what the pet parent wants.
Okay, I'm glad you mentioned that because that's what I was going to ask you.
Okay.
But before I ask that, it's only available in the US, right? Or North America? Just US?
Just US now, yes.
For now.
Just US. Yeah.
For now, till they broaden it global and you get to travel again. And maybe you could take me to come visit or something. I'm kidding.
Well, Maddie's been to 8 countries already.
Yeah,
so she's a well-traveled, and she has her pet passport and, because she needed that when she was in Europe. So she can definitely take you on some nice walking tours.
I'll be her handler.
Europe.
I'll walk her, be there. Okay. So Jonathan, so people understand how Care Credit works with Pets Best, either kind of almost sort of simultaneously or separately or however they work. Tell me some examples so that people really make sense so they understand the whole process.
Yeah, of course. It really depends on, which policy you have. And as we talked about, how you really, can personalize it. But if you have let's call it a midnight emergency, and you go to the vet and there's a bill for $2,000, you can use your Care credit card first to pay for that expense and get a deferred financing offer, which means you wouldn't have to pay interest, as we discussed. And then at that same time, submit your claim, not having to worry about, is this going to be covered or not? Right away, that you're getting that care. You submit your claim. And so that you're also not going out of pocket, you have that special deferred financing product on the Care credit. And then in the meanwhile, Pets Best will process your claim and pay you back. And so that you are not having to go out of pocket or worry about giving that care in an emergency moment. That is obviously very traumatic for both the pet and the pet parent. In other situations, it could come up where it might be an accident-only plan, and this is just more of a routine play. And so, again, you can use your Care credit card to help finance it, and you still have your policy there on you in case of an accident at a later time. So it really depends on how your insurance plan from Pets Best is selected and how that goes across. But we like to view it as a safety net, really, for a financial safety net for all the potential emergency or healthcare expenses that you might have as a pet owner. I happen to have the Care credit card. I use it. In many cases, it's, as we discussed, those late night expenses, come up and shock. You don't even know, what to do. All you care about is making sure that your furry friend is taken care of. And so, having that peace of mind is so important, where you don't have to think about how you're going to be able to pay for it, rather that you're able to.
Exactly. And, why is it all these things happen like late at night or almost middle of night or some crazy time, right? Well, we have to keep the emergency pet hospitals and busy, right? Somehow. So, okay.
No, but I guess what is that? Murphy's Law or
I guess, know, right?
Yeah, Maddie's Law sometimes, because it seems like she's always, you're right, she's always at the end of the night, always doing something. I think she's actually, a couple of times, the diagnosis was, okay, just give her some chicken and rice. So I think she's faked it a couple of times just to get a little better food, but, you never know, so.
Yeah. I mean, Dennis once had a bloody nose, and my spouse, he took him to the vet and he said, I just spent $400 to find out Dennis just has a bloody nose. I said, well, what if he didn't have a bloody nose? What if there's something wrong with it? Don't ask me how cats get a bloody nose. I mean, he has claws. I don't want to go there with the nose picking. Cats don't do that really, but anyway. But
no, you got to listen. I don't know what his
helped.
I don't know what Dennis's teachers in kindergarten teaching him, but I have my son who's a 4-year-old, and I know that they instruct the kids to, I guess masks help now. Maybe that was the issue, but I think you're absolutely right, and I think. Well,
Dennis is a cat, though.
No, no, but your point is great about it was a bloody nose and it was $400, right? And
the costs are just crazy.
Well. And they can't communicate to us. So I think that, we get worried and we get scared. And so we're going to really err on the side of caution. And so, we're going to do that, which shows even more how we need to be prepared for those unexpected expenses, even if, at the end of the day, perhaps, it didn't require that emergency trip, which also why I want to point out that as one of the benefits that Pets Best has is access to a 24/7 call number with vets and vet techs on staff. And so you can call first and almost triage and get some advice to say, hey, Dennis's nose is bleeding. What do you think? Should I do this? Should I do that? And before you go to that vet and incur that bill, you can get, that advice. Obviously, if it's something that's obviously an emergency, we recommend you go right away. But it's happened to me a few times with Maddie where I've called that line. They said, well, why don't you do this, try a day, and then come back to us. And it's really been a lifesave, for both expense, but also peace of mind.
Right. Is it like telemedicine?
It is. It depends on, the plan and what you have. It's mainly over the phone, but we are adding some more advanced features because, there's so many different regulations about how telemedicine can work versus in-state versus out-of-state. So we obviously are limited to the best of our ability by the regulations, but it is a great, advice line that's staffed by professionals and veterinarians and vet techs that can really guide you on the right path.
Okay, so now that we've talked about all these wonderful things and how pet parents can have peace of mind and have some financial assistance, with their pet, how do people go about, we know care credits available at different veterinary offices. How do people go about getting Pets Best health insurance?
I would suggest they go to petsbest.com. That is a great way of doing it. You can also find it on the Care Credit site if you go to the Care Credit vet site. But I would just, for the Pets Best insurance, go to petsbest.com and it'll ask you a little bit of information about you, but not too much. It'll ask, where you're based, your pet's name, the breed, and how old it is. And from there, they'll easily give you a quote. And we have a toggle tool, which can help you, determine based on the levels of coverage you want. And if you wanted, as we mentioned, the wellness plan, or if you want an accident only plan, you can do all that and customize it for what you think makes sense for your own personal situation.
I think it's great. It sounds like it's really brought pet health insurance into the future because from where it was, which was, back in the day, it was much messier.
Oh, absolutely.
Much more convoluted, it just seems so easy. And what about for someone applying? What is the waiting period generally?
Generally, it's about 14 days until coverage begins. So, that's obviously meant to protect against if someone already has an incident, right, and just tries to sign up for insurance.
Otherwise known as fraud. I'll say it.
Yes,
they get mad at me, kind of fraud, being sneaky. And then when that happens, it raises costs for everybody. So we don't want that happening. But 14 days is very reasonable because say if you just got your puppy and your puppy needs to get fixed, to wait 14 days.
Oh, yes. No, absolutely.
Okay.
And I think you can prepare for it before, right? If you know all that information, and it's a really quick and easy tool to use and to get started. And like I said, the quotes are immediate. And, and the other thing I would say is, as we're talking about planning ahead, I know we're talking about Pets Best here, but, Care Credit also, applying for that card and having that ready is super easy now as well. We have either you go to the website or we have contact list applications in the vets, and you could do it without even impacting your credit score through a pre-qualification to know if it's something that you're going to be eligible for. So I recommend looking into that as well prior because it's there for you when you need it, right? And that's what's very important. Having a credit card that's dedicated for your pet expenses and your pet emergency expenses. As we discussed, you never know what's going to happen. So best to be prepared.
Best to be prepared is right. Jonathan, Synchrony's it's a bank. And now you're going into, you have Care Credit, you're going into pet health insurance. Is it like a different kind? I mean, it sounds soft and fuzzy. Tell us, are you guys so very pet pro?
We are very pet friendly in our Pets Best office in Boise. It's a pet friendly office. It's, if you call up, you'd certainly hear a lot of barking in the background. The people that are in this business are passionate about their pets. And yes, Care Credit, Synchrony, we're businesses, but we are so dedicated to the life and health of our pet parents and our pets, of course. And so we want to do everything that we can to help them prepare for an unplanned pet emergency or a predictable financial relationship and responsibility that people have for their pets. We're here to support that lifetime of care, and we offer, what we know are flexible and affordable options for you to get the pet care that your cat or dog, or now equine, as we expanded into the equine space as well on the Care Credit side, that your horse might need. Pets Best is for dogs or cats, but in Care Credit, it could be used for any of your animals because it's tied more to the veterinarian. And so we did a big launch into equine care. And because people think that just because you are a horse owner that you're prepared for all those expenses. And that's not the case. There's a lot of people that love horses that expenses could come and surprise them. And so, it's just as important, right? It's all about compliance of care, Michelle, and anything we could do to help improve the pet's life and provide that financial stability and well-being for the pet parents is just going to make that life of that pet better. And that's what we're about.
Well, I think what you're doing is great. I think there's just win-wins all around. Helps the pet parent, helps the pet. A pet that goes to the vet on a regular basis gets the checkups and the vaccines. For the most part, there's a lot of schools of thought on vaccines, but, has the option to go to the vet. There's not a financial worry. Is a pet that's going to live a longer life. And, happy pet parent, happy pet, vice versa. So I think it's all good. So thank you so much for coming on Best Bets for Pets and sharing this great information that Synchrony is doing with Care Credit and with Pets Best.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much for what you're doing as well.
I want to thank my guest, Jonathan Wainberg. I think he gave us some great information. And please go check out Pets Best Health Insurance. It's always wonderful to have different options because you never know when you're going to have a pet emergency. As a pet parent for over more years than I want to admit, over 30 years, maybe even more than that, but for quite a long time, I've had my share and it's a wallop, when you're like all of a sudden here, $3,000, $5,000, it's expensive, but your fur babe depends on you. So these are great options. So please check out Pets Best Health Insurance and check out Care Credit because they're both great options to give you peace of mind when it comes to your pet's health care. I want to thank my crew, Nikki, Dennis, Charlotte, Molly, Sammy, and Jethro. And out of all of those, Dennis has been the one to get most health trouble. It just seems to find him, the poor guy. But, he's fine. And actually, at the time, Care Credit came to the rescue. So anyways, thank you so much for listening. Thanks again to my producer, Mark Winter, for doing such a great job on our podcast. He makes me and my guests sound amazing. And a huge thank you, huge thank you to all the pet parents out there listening. So, hey, keep listening. You never know what we're going to have on Best Bets for Pets.
Let's Talk Pets every week on demand, only on PetLifeRadio.com.